Total. How many years did you stay in Europe? Total years.
Well, just we were in Israel 2 years, 1 month, and then we were in Europe from August till we got back in, I guess it was November. It was October or November, end of October.
Okay.
We were just months there.
Just in traveling all around.
Stay in a different place most of the night.
It's a very great experience at young age.
Twice in Switzerland, where that motor skirt didn't have power to take us up the hill. And the first time we met that curve, and Harold Campbell, my partner, got off, parked it there, walked on. Or no, I got off. He went on around the curve.
Okay.
And I walked, and I looked up at the mountain in Switzerland and said, my goodness, it'll be dark. It was like 4 o'clock. It'll be dark before I get to the top of the mountain. Well, I just walked around the curve, and there's a scooter sitting on the curb, and on the side berm, he'd gone on.
Walking.
So I got on, and I drove past him, and we like this till we got to the top.
Wow.
We made it before dark.
Amazing.
And we went up on I should have rehearsed this. Went up on, oh goodness, it's a tall mountain there. Tram car takes you up. You can go on one side with a tram, and then we went up in a cable car.
Oh, get back
Can't
to
think of the name. But it was snow. This is in August. We were up there, snow on the ground.
It's a way up.
We took a sled, a bobsled ride, was pulled with dogs up while we were up
that's
there.
fun.
And it snowed year round up there. And
What, the Swiss Alps?
pardon?
At the Swiss Alps?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Swiss Alps, sure.
So when you once you finished your time in Europe and you came back, where did you get married? Here in the United
I came back and worked on a farm for 3 years.
For another 3 years.
And in the meantime, three men had worked for Agway. I'll call it Agway. It was Eastern States Farmers Exchange Co-op at that time, and later, 1964, it became Agway. But I had worked for Agway. They said they came to our farm because my father was a director in the Eastern States. He used to go to Springfield, Massachusetts, to board meetings, and that was an organization in all of New England, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware.
Okay.
But not in New York, not in New Jersey.
Okay.
Later, when it became Agway, it included New York and New Jersey. And these three men, one was a feed specialist because we had the other was a crop specialist, and the other was the area manager. But my father, because he was a director, he would go to some of these local meetings, like in Evansburg or down in Paula or someplace, where there was Eastern States farmer meetings.
Okay.
And I would go with him. This is after I came back. Well, whatever. And then these three men talked me into applying for a job with Agway. Before that, though, getting ahead of myself, before that, they said, why don't you go and apply for that job at teaching for Ag and Marion Center? I said, well, I don't know if I want to teach or not. I'm not a qualified teacher. Ag education makes you qualified. I was Ag economics. I never had any classroom student teaching or how to grade papers or all that. And but I decided, well, I'll do that. So I put in an application. Sure enough, I was hired. This was in December, by sometime early December or middle of December. At that time, I was taking a typing class every Wednesday night at the high school in Indiana to learn to type because I never had learned.
Right.
All of a sudden, I get a word from the school, you're hired. We want you to start the first after January. I had 3 weeks to get there, or 2 weeks to get ready.
What's that year?
Pardon?
What was the year?
1956.
Okay.
And that was, I'd been home since 53. And this is 56. And so I accepted the job, and they went for a year and a half. I said, I'll teach till spring. And if I like the job and you like me, then we'll talk. So when spring came, they said, Mr. McCurry was supervising principal. He was a well-known man there. He was the principal when I went to high school, and he spent 40 years there before he retired. and very well liked, and the discipline was great with him there. And he got a hold of me and he said, we want you for another year. So I taught a full year then, and for 55, 56. No, 56, 57.
Okay.
56, 57. And when I retired, after one and a half years there, that's when these two guys from Agway again said, why don't you apply for a job with Agway? So I did. My wife and I went down to Carlisle, PA for an interview.
Wow.
And stayed overnight and had an interview and ended up on the way back saying, well, I took the job with Agway.
You did take the job.
I had to go to IUP that night because I had signed up to take a short course there about something, and the man that's I can't think of his name now. He was unhappy with me, and I had to go in and tell him I won't be in for the class tonight because I've just made a decision to go and work for Agway. Oh, you should be a teacher. You ought to be a teacher. And so, well, I made this decision.
Right. So you stayed with Agway.
After that, 6 months, I dated my wife 6 months from the 1st of January to July. We got married. We were married for 53 years.
Amazing.
And she was 5 years older than I was.
Oh, wow.
And when she died 8 years ago, I was in Indian Haven. I was in this hospital, and I had just been transferred into Indian Haven to recover from Lyme's disease. I didn't know if I'd get to go to the funeral, but my grandson, who worked for the ambulance service 7 years, and he and my son came in with a wheelchair, and they took me to the funeral.
Okay.
And then a few days after that, at the Indian Haven, these nurses said, well, your wife died last week. She was 90 years old when she died. How old are you? I said, I'm 85. Oh.
Younger.
I said, she was 5 years older than I when I married her. And she was still 5 years older when
That's
when
right.
she died. I said, we were married for 53 years.
Amazing.
They looked at it and they said, were you married before? I said, no. Was your wife married before? No, she wasn't either. Oh, we can't believe this story.
Good story. That's a good story.
So then I was with Agway for 34 years.
Oh, wow.
My work there was at the Indiana store for about a year and a half. Then I became a salesman on the road for Indiana store. Back in the early days of Agway, they didn't have a salesman. They had field men that would go around and make recommendations. But there was enough, this is how things have changed, there was enough loyalty with the farmers. They would, if they had somebody come and tell you how to fertilize this field or spray these chemicals or whatever, they'd go and buy from wherever you represented. They didn't have salesmen. I was one of the first salesmen Agway had.
Oh, wow.
And my job at that time was just in Indiana County with people who bought from the Indiana Agway store.
Okay.
But then that's increased after a year or two to include Cambria and Somerset County and Armstrong County and Westmoreland County, and kept growing. The last year I worked, I was 15 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania, clear up to Mercer and Washington County and Fayette County.
What was the last year that you worked?
For 1980. 84.
1984.
I started, is that right? Yeah, 1984.
And then when you retired, where did you guys live?
Well, I lived here.
You stayed here all this
I
time.
lived on 286, where the Walmart
Where the
hotel
woman?
is. That's about where our house was. We lived
Okay.
there 8 years. That was 57 to 67.
Okay.
We moved here in 67.
Here.
Yeah, but in 84, I think the math works out right for that, for 34 years.
Amazing.
And in the last year I worked, I did 15 counties, as I said before, and in Ohio. At that time, we had northeastern Ohio, clear to the west side of Cleveland, calling on fruit and vegetable growers in Ohio. During that 34 years, I spent 3 years as crop specialist. That job was the job I liked, and but it was, well, I had to do a lot of meetings, farm meetings, January and all of February into March. Sometimes 3 meetings in one day. Do one in the morning someplace, go somewhere else in the afternoon, even at night another. And I remember one very well, and I did in southern Somerset County, and that was a daytime meeting. It was morning and afternoon. Then I had to leave and go to Oakland, Maryland, because we had one outlet in Oakland, Maryland. And the salesman that worked in that area, he said, "Sure, lots of slides because there's Amish farmers going to be here. They don't have colored slides. They don't have television." And the meeting was in a schoolhouse, and they had electricity. I don't know how that was. But anyhow, it's where the women, these Mennonites or whatever, Amish, they were doing sewing. They had all these sewing machines. They did sewing and making. And when they had a meeting like this, they put the sewing machine off to the side and covered
had your meeting
the sheet, So and there was a big egg stove in the back that warmed the room. And I had electricity, so I had to show some slides about the thing I'm talking about,
Right.
growing alfalfa or whatever. And it snowed that night. Oh, a lot of snow. This is in sometime in the end of February, I guess it was. And those people came in, some in buggies and some in tractors with rubber tires, and some in cars. There were people, the Mennonites, some of them drive cars.
Right,
Depends on where you are. And but that was clear down in Oakland, Maryland. And I was on that job for 3 years, and that job was from the High Line clear to almost Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Wow, that's far.
Working with 10 different salesmen. One day I might be in Butler, the next day in Somerset, the next day in State College or Clearfield or whatever.
That's a lot of traveling.
And I sold a Volkswagen 2 months ago that I had 300,000 miles. I didn't drive it for the past year. It just sat with me.
Oh, wow.
It had 300,000, and it had 600 more going toward 400,000 miles on it. And before that, I had bought one Volkswagen diesel also, made in Germany. I put 268,000 on in 7 years on that one. So I spent a lot of time in it.
A lot of time on the road.
Cars.
Wow, a lot of time. Does your son follow in your suit? Does he do the agricultural
Yes,
job?
he graduated horticulture at Penn State.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I had to introduce him at a meeting one time in Washington County, out at the Holiday Inn there. And I was in the back of the room, and he was up at the front because he worked for Penn State Extension. He's still on the job. He's 36 years in now. He's about due to retire, I think.
Good for him.
But he's the Indiana County educator, they call him. He was the director in Indiana County.
Okay.
They made changes 3 years ago, and they have districts. Armstrong, Westmoreland, Indiana has a district,
Okay.
and the director is in charge of those 3 counties. And when you're a director, you have to be in good relationship with the county commissioners, because Penn State Extension in the counties get money from federal, state, and local. The local money comes to pay secretaries, office supplies, and probably some other thing that I don't remember or know about. And so you have to be in good relationship with the county commissioner. But his job now is educator, and he does meetings over a number of counties, but he still works out of his office here in Indiana.
Oh, okay.
And
And he has children, so you have grandchildren.
He has 2. He and his wife have a son and a daughter.
Oh, wow.
No, excuse me. Forget that. They have 2 sons.
Oh, okay. Okay. And they are grown.
Matthew, he was with the ambulance service 7 years. Then he worked 2 jobs. He worked the ambulance service and the 911 dispatch office.
Oh, wow.
And the first year he was at the 911 dispatch office. They gave him time off to take the police academy, and he's a policeman. He was in Cherry Tree one day a week and Salzburg one day a week and doing 911.
Oh, wow.
Well, then he's now in Belfont. He has a full-time job, policeman in Belfont.
Oh, wow.
Since it's about a year, a little over a year now.
Amazing.
He's not married, but he has a girlfriend.
Oh.
Before he was too busy. He was doing two jobs. You never saw him. He was either sleeping or working.
Yeah, that's too much. That's a lot of work.
I said to him one time, how do you stay awake at that job in the middle of the night?
I know.
Oh, he said, sometimes the phone wakens you up.
That's a tough
3
job.
o'clock in the morning.
That's a tough job.
But he has a girlfriend. The younger son, he graduated from Penn State. The older one went to IUP for 3 years, but he never graduated.
Okay.
But the younger one graduated from Penn State in horticulture.
Oh, look at that.
And he worked for Davy Tree Company by the airport at Dulles Airport for 2 years as a team leader. Had 2 trucks and about 3 guys, and they'd go out in these bucket trucks and go up and prune trees and all.
Oh, okay.
But he thought he wasn't going to go any higher in that job. He's back now living in north side Pittsburgh, out in Wexford area somewhere there.
Okay.
And he came back there to work with his friend who has a landscaping business, but that guy left his own business. He went to the police academy in Pittsburgh, and he's a deputy or something in Allegheny County. But he and Tyler still use their equipment. In the evenings, they go out and do about 30 lawns in Fox Chapel.
Oh, that's good.
They
Good
take
side
care of
job.
lawns and tree pruning and all that. But he has a full-time job with a company, Bartlett it's called, Bartlett Tree Company. They only work with trees.
Okay.
And don't ask me much more because I don't know much.
Well, they have plenty of work here. There's plenty of trees. So, well, that's a great. It's interesting because they're all. You have a son. It's. They're not all in the same area, and so when did you decide? You and your wife decide to settle. When did you say, okay, that's it? What are we going to do? And then what did you do to? I know you said did you go dancing? So did you have that, and what kind of activities did you have in church?
Yes. We forgot our daughter, Marilyn. We have a daughter.
Oh, you have a daughter. Okay.
Yeah. And she's married and lives in Tyson Farm Trailer Park. She works at Walmart.
Okay. The Walmart here in Indiana?
Yes.
Okay.
She's the one that checks you out when you're checking yourself out. She checks you when you're checking yourself out. You know how that is? She used to run the cash register, but they gave her a promotion to this job of checking the people that are checking themselves out. Because come time you get people that are trying to cheat on you. You got to watch them all the time. I said, what do you do with them? Well, you try to tell them that they're making a mistake. They put it in their bag to go, and they didn't put it through the machine to pay for it yet.
Okay.
And said sometimes you have to take them in the back room, and you call the state troopers. Sometimes put handcuffs on and take them to the police station, whatever.
Yeah,
Now, she's been off work with a bad knee. She had to get a knee replacement in March. End of March. She just went back to work last Saturday. It healed well. Everything was fine. But when she'd walk around for an hour, when she'd go to buy groceries at the store, well, she had some pain there, and they wouldn't let her go back to work. But finally, she got back just last Saturday.
Yeah, and those jobs is hard because she has to stay on her feet a lot.
Yeah, so. And well, they gave her a daytime job to begin with.
Good.
This week she's working daytime only, and she's working as a greeter at the door.
Oh, good for her.
So she's not quite back on her job yet, but she's there.
Walmart, they take care of their associates, so that's not bad.
But she and her husband have 2 daughters.
Oh, okay.
One that lives in Texas, Garland, Texas.
Oh, wow.
She graduated from IUP. And the other one, Gretchen and Jocelyn. Jocelyn graduated from high school, and she works at, she didn't go on with college. She talks about it, but she hasn't gone. She works at, well, I was going to say McDonald's, but that's changed. She works at the sandwich shop on Philadelphia Street.
Oh, good, good.
Right beside Delatona's and that sandwich shop. it was a promotion for her, and she has better hours there
Mm.
than she did at McDonald's. And she has a son.
Okay.
He's 2.5 years old now, two to three maybe. And but she has no husband at the present time.
So it's your great grandson.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's good. Do you have family get-togethers now?
Well, we used to have a lot of them. My sister-in-law on the Pollock farm, because they have my brother and his wife. They had 3 sons, and they all live on a farm. There's 6 Pollocks living in separate houses on the Pollock farm. And one of his sons is a Mongoloid, but he's 50-some years old now.
Oh, wow.
But they took care of him all these years, and he's
Long-time.
worked at the workshop in Indiana.
Okay.
Still does.
Good.
And the other 2 are married and live there. They don't all make a living on the farm, but the oldest one was a farmer. He's 65 now, I think, or 66. And he and his wife have 3 sons. But they're all living there,
In that
different
same area.
houses. And my sister-in-law would have these get-togethers at houses every year in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But it got harder and harder, and then she passed away a few years ago. I used to have a get-together with my children too, but it's harder to get them together now. And we haven't done that as much as we used to.
Right. So what do you do now? What is your activities that you do now?
Well, I go to church every Sunday.
Okay.
And just last week I was at my Naughty Pines Western Square Dance Club reunion. You probably never heard of the Naughty Pines Square Dance.
Where is Naughty
You know what
Pines?
square dance?
I definitely do know what square dance
You
is.
know what a Western Square Dance is?
If I remember well and seen them on TV, they are one individual sings and tells people how to do the steps, and then the people follow what he says.
Well, that's the class.
Okay.
That's the class. You have to go to the class for 6 months before you can become a member of the club.
Oh, okay.
And during that 6 months, you're learning these steps.
Okay.
And the main difference is, in regular square dance, there's usually one couple or sometimes 2 couples that are not doing anything. The other couples are doing it.
Okay.
In a Western square dance, everybody's doing something all the time.
Oh, wow.
Because of the calls, they tell you what to do.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you have to know what to do or you get lost. And this group is rather small because it was a fairly good-sized group. We used to meet once a month for that club.
Okay.
And now we had 16 people there at Haas's last
That's a lot of
Friday.
people.
We met at 1 o'clock to eat, and we were there till about 4 o'clock. There were about 10 other people that were invited that said that they were members of that club, but they said, "Oh, we're going to come," but they didn't come. But 16 did show up.
Oh, okay.
So-
So where do you go to dance? You go to Haas's?
I don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay. You just get together as a club.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, well, once a year. So it's a
Oh,
reunion.
that's nice.
My high school class reunion still gets together. Next year will be my 75th, I think. Whatever. We've had mostly 10 or more. That's it. They're not all members because some people are too old to drive and they have somebody bring them.
Okay.
My one classmate from Snyder County, Pennsylvania, her son and daughter-in-law come from Wilkes-Barre or that area every year and bring her to that reunion in July. We meet at Haas's. So that's been going on for years. Our class for high school in 1944 from Marion Center, we've had a reunion every 5 years, and then it was every 4 years, every 3, every 2. And now for a number of years it's been every year.
Every year. The last one in July, how many were there?
There were, at that reunion, there were 6, let's see, 5 or 6. There were a total, I think, of 9 people or 10 people there, but of the class members, there's 6. There's 3 that live away. There's one lady It never came to one reunion, and it's 4.
Mm.
And then there was 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 10 of us, I guess. 9 or 10 of us still living.
So you go to church on Sunday, who picks you up to go
I
to
drive
church?
myself.
You do?
Oh.
Oh, wow. That's
People ask me,
amazing.
they said, "You're still living in your house?" I said, "Yeah, that's where all my stuff is. Look around.
That's right. This is your
That's
stuff.
where my whole stuff is." And I can drive easier than I can walk.
That's
I was standing
amazing.
up straight when I was up until 4 years ago.
Right.
But I have knee problems. I have to get up slow. I
Okay.
have hip problems, but I can stand up
You sure
straight.
can. You sure
But
can.
when I walk or work in my kitchen,
you
I'm
go
like
back
this.
down. Yeah.
My doctor says it's my muscles in my stomach, weak muscles in my stomach. I
Okay.
said, I thought it was my back. Well, he
That
said, maybe
makes
it's
sense.
some of both.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. You look very active. You look very good for your age. I thought I was going to have to visit somebody at a nursery home. You are here at your own home. You drive. I'm impressed. I'm very
I have a
impressed.
tractor bought in it's 50 years old, let's say it that way. It's the back wheels are the same size as the wheels on your
On the vehicle?
car.
Okay.
or a pickup truck.
Mhm.
The front wheels are smaller. It has a 4-foot mower. And it's 50 years old, 51 maybe. And I have a track vac that pulls behind.
Okay.
It hooks on behind the tractor.
Mhm.
It has a tube, 8-inch tube that sucks the leaves of the grass. I don't use it in the summer, but when the leaves start coming out, sucks the grass and the leaves out of goes into a tub on the back. The tub is about this big around and from the floor up about this high.
Mhm.
And it packs them in there. It's amazing how heavy that thing can be because it just packs
It
them
just
in.
puts it in and packs it
Yeah.
tight. Mhm.
And you don't have to lift it to get it emptied, but you just have to, the lid lifts up like this, and
Okay.
you tip it over.
And
Don't
then you
lift
fall.
it, tip it over. That's not too hard. I can do that.
Mhm.
Then you just have to pull it about 2 inches, and it releases from the cradle. It's sitting there, and it tips up. And then you have to pick the back end up, and
And you still do that.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing.
I also have about 13 tulip poplar trees here.
Oh,
When this
okay.
house was built, there were 90 trees. You can't believe that, and I can't either. There were 90 trees on this lot. It's .64. It's less than 3/4 of an acre. It's more than half an acre, but
Okay.
less than 3/4.
Okay.
And my son took a lot of trees. And the contractors built the house, didn't take one tree down. There was no trees out front, except the one down on that mound. It's a double tree, goes up like that.
Okay.
And there's one over there.
Mhm.
And those two were there.
Okay.
Didn't take down any trees, put this house in this cove.
Mhm.
And there's one tree at that corner was only 3 feet away from the house foundation, but he didn't cut it down.
Huh.
I cut it down later.
Yeah, that's.
And over the years, we got rid of a lot of them.
Mhm.
And I talked to one of my neighbors when I was at that Square Lancaster reunion. He lives down the road. He said, I wish I had taken more down then, because he said now it costs a lot of money to get those
Costs
trees
money.
down.
Sure does. Yeah.
Well, I said I have 13 still left, and those leaves are big, and they're over 100 feet high. They were probably 25 feet high, a little higher than the house roof when the house was built. This house was, not this one, but one like it, was on the front cover of the Better Homes and Gardens, way back.
Okay.
My wife saved the picture. She said the Better Homes and Gardens, I think it's in a cupboard, dresser drawer up there somewhere.
Mhm.
She said, we might want to build a house sometime.
Mhm.
And we'll save this. So when we moved from 286, where we lived for 8 years,
Mhm.
to here, because we had water, we drilled a well and got water
Okay.
here. We didn't get any water there.
Okay.
Had to give that up
Mhm.
because we had a nice place there, but it would have been right by the motel now, or where the Walmart is. But now we like this place better anyway.
Mhm.
And that picture of this was on the front cover. It was in 2 more times in the Better Homes and Gardens. They had a picture of the 70s. 7 houses of the 70s, they said. And it was in again in a story about it. When we went to build this, Mary Nell and I talked about it, and I called them. I said, do you ever have this house built in the east? You always show it out and California or Oregon or down south or someplace. Oh, we sold the blueprint, 32 different states, all over the United States. Well, you know, I drove over a lot of country, and there's only two that I've ever seen. One is going out of Evansburg on the old road. You go down across the railroad track, and then the road forks off toward Loretta. Out there a little ways on the right. There's one like this. And then the other one is near Center Hall. When your Center Hall is over the mountain from State College, going up Route 45 on the other side of the mountain from State College.
There's another one.
And go from Spruce Creek up and go on past State College. And there's one there. Now both of those have changed the windows a little bit, but you could tell it was the same house. Straight up and then a sloping roof, and sloping all four sides and flat roof.
The few that are left, and this one.
I like it. There's a lot of convenience about it.
I like it. I like the way it's set up.
Upstairs we had main bedrooms, master bedrooms on that end. That's the whole end. There's a sliding glass door. There's a balcony. I have plants sitting out there now. They're plants that Robert brought back from Penn State when he went to school. There's a corn plant, and another one, I don't know the name. It's a big sprawly thing with leaves like your hand. And they're out on the balcony in the summer, and in the winter, move them into the bedroom. On this side, there's two bedrooms. And they each have windows that are about so wide. Two together is about that wide. They turn out to the cracks, and they're tall, slender windows.
Way up.
And the one was sort of just worked out right for us. We had a daughter in one, and we had a son in the other one.
Perfect.
And then the bathroom is in the center. The stairway goes up.
So there's one here and then one up there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And all of the plumbing is in the center. There's no chance that anything can freeze.
Exactly.
We had a neighbor up here that had trouble because all the plumbing was coming from down into their one floor to the other floor along the wall.
What a mess.
This is in the center. The laundry's in the basement directly under
Right
here.
under there.
And the sink is not out by most houses, you're at the sink looking out the window.
Right.
And the stove's back here. This one's the other way around. You're at the stove looking out the window, and the sink is over here.
Perfect.
It's all connected into the pipes. And up to
Very
the bathroom
convenient.
upstairs, and this powder room here.
Nice. Very convenient.
So that was a smart move.
Yeah, very much. That's very
And it's so convenient. I can sit on the commode in the bathroom, and I need toilet paper, it's right there.
right there.
I can get up and take one step or two, and I'm at the lavatory bathtub.
Perfect.
So,
Very nice home. Very well made.
now some of these pictures show some of my history.
Okay.
Maybe you know.
Let me finish here so that because I want to take pictures of your pictures.
I didn't tell you much about the changes of things, did I?
I do want to. Let's get back to that. We already talked of your employment. Basically, it's a lot of it overseas, and your military service, and you got children, your grandchildren, your church, your current hobbies. But definitely, I do like to know about what you think about the changes from when you grew up here, or what you know of Indiana, to what you see now. What are your thoughts about the changes?
We used to go to the movies, you know, there were two movies. Mammoth Theater, that's down, I think, where David Reed has an office.
Is that the Philadelphia Street?
Yeah, they're both in Philadelphia Street. Well, you know, the one that's, the Indiana Theater is the one that's the church.
The church now, right.
Yeah. And then the other one was down at, well, if I say anything, it's across from Dean's Diner. Dean's Diner's not there.
Okay.
But I think it's the place where David Reed's office is.
Is right now.
On the south side of the street. That was the Mammoth Theater.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big thing to go out with your girlfriend on Saturday night.
Right.
Go to the movies.
And
And once in a while we even went to midnight movies.
wow, they still have those. Were there any drive-ins in this area?
There wasn't then, but there was the one that's still here. Do you know where there's a drive-in that's still here? It's at the High Point, back of the Holiday Inn.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it's still functioning.
Oh, wow. So that didn't come. That didn't come until what, the 70s, maybe?
Probably. Well, 51. I remember going to drive-in theater in State College once in I graduated in 51, so 1950.
Okay.
They had a drive-in theater there then.
Okay.
I don't know when this one came here,
Okay.
but it's a long time
Okay.
ago. But it wasn't there in the back in the 40s.
Okay.
No. And
So there was 2 movie theaters here on Philadelphia Street in that area. Where were there any sport activities that you attended in this area?
well, of course, ended up basketball. I played basketball and went to Arcadia, Glen Camel, Clymer, Salzburg, Homer City, Blairsville. That's about the schools I went to.
Okay.
And they were all interesting. I'll tell you a story about those. One had Glen Camel. They had a heater in the middle of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That heated the building. It was about this square grating, and that's where the heat came up in the middle of basketball.
In the middle of the.
That building stayed until a few years ago. It's gone now. And in Arcadia, well, Hilewood, I guess it's that old building is still there. A buff brick building that's across the road going into Hilewood. But you had to dress there, then you had to run across the road down through the woods and up to a low flat building. That was
Okay.
I don't know what you call it, park picnic ground or something.
Oh, okay.
I remember one night we were playing basketball and it had double doors that opened. Somebody came in the door and somebody threw the basketball during the game. The guy didn't catch it and it went out the door because the door was open. It come out into the woods. But you had to dress up there, cross the road.
Cross the road and then come back.
Cross the road, going into Hilewood there. And
That's funny.
and the Clymer, they had the basketball and a swimming pool. It was originally a swimming pool. And then they decided to do away with the swimming pool, but it was still, that's where the basketball floor was. And there were concrete bleachers up here that you sat on. Salzburg had the best one then. And Marion Center was good too, but Salzburg had just and they had nice comfortable seats and basketball.
A little bit more modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just recently remodeled at that time. But Indiana, oh, it was great. You come to Murphy's store and McCrory's. They were from there opposite each other on Philadelphia Street.
Okay.
The atrium is where Murphy's store was.
Okay.
And come to the doctor. Sometimes Marion Center had a doctor.
Okay.
I had an injury on my nose here when I was about 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that came about because I went to one-room school for class one day and the teacher didn't show up. Somebody from her family came and said, well, your teacher has measles or mumps or something. She won't be here.
Okay.
And my brother and I thought, oh, great, we'll go home and see the butcher cut up a beef.
Okay.
Because once a year, my dad had a man come in and butcher beef cow that wasn't milking too well.
Mm-hmm.
That would be our meat.
Okay.
And they shoot the cow in the head and it falls down, they cut its neck and it bleeds. And then
Mm-hmm.
they take the back leg and pull it up with a rope and block in the shed there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start cutting down, peeling the hide off.
Right.
When you get done, you get the hide all off and the head off. And then you take a saw like you'd saw a board,
Right.
saw right down to the center.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's half. Then you cut the front quarter and the back quarter
Mhm.
separate. When they started, this farmer that was the butcher, he starts sawing like this real hard there, and I stepped up and I'm holding the stand pretty close to the
Mm-hmm.
meat that I'm holding, and my dad said, "Hey, just wait a minute." Said, "You take it easy there, because you might come out of there and hit somebody."
Right.
That's exactly
And
what he
sure
did.
enough.
I stood back, and they were holding. I think it was somebody else too. Who was holding this.
The piece of meat, yeah.
But I was helping.
Okay.
And when he came out of there, he just went around and hit me right there. It still has a little mark
Yes,
there.
yes.
And,
That must have been
it's
horrible.
more of a mark, but it's gone away over the years a little bit. It started to bleed, and I went in. My dad took me to the house. My mother put the wet, cold washcloth on my neck,
Mm-hmm.
and they got it stopped. We came into Dr. Will Simpson. He was on the corner, you know where the Baptist Methodist Church is?
Is now, yes.
right across on 9th Street.
Okay.
On that corner. That was originally a hospital in Indiana years ago.
Oh, okay.
But that was his office, Dr. Will Simpson.
Wow.
He put 3 stitches of black thread in there. After a week or two, I had to go back and pull those out. That wasn't fun. But,
That was so dangerous.
so we came to the doctor in Indiana sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you another thing about Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nice looking building on 11th Street. If you're going on Philadelphia Street,
Okay.
toward the railroad track,
Okay.
toward the Agway, where Agway is
Right.
closed now, you turn on 11th, and there was a gas station there in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone just recently, but the next building was a birthing house. That's where I was born.
Oh,
Did you ever hear of a birthing house?
I've
That's where
heard
women,
of those.
pregnant
Went to
women
go
to
get,
have a baby.
yes.
Well, that's where I was born.
Wow.
And I spent one night there. Then my father came the next day and took my mother and I to the Pollock farm. When I was in the Army, they said, "Where were you born?" I always said Marion Center. I didn't want to get Indiana connected up with that. I sat beside some girls that were college students back a few years ago at some Qantas event out at the college lodge. And I said, where do you live in a dormitory? No, we live, and they told me where. It was this house. I said, I can tell you a story about this house, so I told them. Oh, well, you didn't know that.
That
This
is
is the birthing house.
amazing.
Mrs. Bertheimer, she was a, what do you call a lady that,
The midwife.
midwife,
Mm-hmm.
and she had some help there to take care of the.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, when my brother was born 2 years later, 2.5 years later, he was born at home. But I guess it was the first child, and they wanted to do it right. So
Right, right.
yeah. My sister that lives in Nashville, Tennessee, which I have, Laura, she's still living. She's 7 years younger than I.
Oh, wow.
She was born at the Pollock house. I remember Wallace and my brother and I playing in the yard, and we heard this baby crying out of the upstairs, and that was the
that was
birthing
the birth
of my sister.
That is
The
hilarious.
birthing mother was there in the house.
At the
with my mother.
house. Oh, that's cute. That's a nice story.
But now back to the subject again. We used to have all kinds of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Stewart Hardware, you remember that?
Wow.
That's where the S&T Bank is now.
S&T is.
That was the big hardware. That they had 3 floors or 4 building there, 3 stories, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and made out of stone. And you could get anything you wanted in there. Sometimes you had to go to the 2nd or 3rd floor
Mm-hmm.
to get it. But there was the mining business, you know, a lot of ropes and cables and all kinds of stuff
okay.
they sold there, and tools.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into the Diamond Drugstore, they have these pictures on the wall. I don't know if did you ever go in Diamond Drugstore?
I've seen where the dime. I haven't gone in there yet.
Yeah, well, you park at the back. They have parking in the back. You don't
Okay.
have to park at the front.
Okay.
Go in at the back, and it's all along the wall. Pictures of Jimmy Stewart, and courthouse, and pictures of his. Mary Dale and I went to his 50th anniversary when the statue was presented. They had down at the, well, it's on the old road, you know where McNaughton's, South 6th Street, or no, Wayne Avenue,
Wayne Avenue, yes.
beyond the Holiday Inn,
Okay.
where you go over that hump, and the old road takes off to Homer City.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that down in there was, can't think of the name of that, that's where it was a dance, a big dinner.
For the 50th?
What?
For the 50th of a...
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And the next day they had like 30,000 people standing on the street watching the
The statue.
airplanes flying over.
Oh,
Reagan was the president then, and they had the Blue Angels or somebody flew over a couple of times while we were
that must have
at
been
the time
nice.
they were at noontime when they took the cover off the statue.
Oh, that must have been amazing to
It
watch.
cost $50 a piece for us, but you know, people were slow at paying for that. But finally it picked up when they had a full house down at that event, at that
Amazing.
place. And there was a big crowd out there in the streets.
Did you ever encounter Jimmy Stewart in your day?
I did that time,
Just
Yes.
okay.
yeah. The other thing, this has nothing to do with the story, I guess, but we used to come for war bond rallies in front of the courthouse on Saturday night.
Okay.
They'd have, what was the Western Square Dance, Western music from West Virginia, Wheeling, West Virginia. They'd come, they put on a program in front of the court. It's across from the old courthouse.
Okay.
You know, in the courtyard there.
Mm-hmm.
And the streets blocked off and the streets would be full of people. Then they want you to buy war bonds for the war. That was different times we came to that.
Okay.
They had a restroom in that courthouse at the back. And it was never, the light was on and the door was unlocked 24 hours a day. You could go in there anytime you came to town, go to the restroom back there.
Very convenient.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, that was
amazing. I mean, so when as a young man going to the movie theater, did you go to eat anywhere there on?
oh yeah.
What was your
Well, the
places that
Capitol Restaurant, where is that now? What's that now? It's on Philadelphia Street. It's none of these places exist anymore. Capitol Restaurant was a sort of a high-class place to go and eat.
Okay.
It was on the right side. It was on between 5th and 6th Street on the
Okay.
right side, where it was. And then there was the Dairydale. That's about where. Beside the bank, it's not a bank anymore.
What street? Close to what street?
It's near the atrium. Toward the bank building, it's still there.
Okay.
And that's where the Dairydale was.
The
But the
Dairydale.
real restaurant we liked the best when I was a senior in high school was the train station. That was across from the corner. Well, it's about where the present courthouse sits.
Okay.
See, the Pennsylvania Railroad used to come in from this Blairsville into Indiana. That was the end of the line. And the B&O Railroad came where the track is now.
Okay.
Buffalo and Ohio Railroad came in from Punxsutawney. It came through where Agway was and went on south.
Okay.
And right where the Pennsylvania station stopped, when that railroad stopped, they made that train station. Well, the building's still there.
Hmm.
That was a restaurant.
That was a restaurant. Amazing.
And that was a good night spot for Mr. The guy that was our representative. His father ran that, and he ran it after his father died for years. That's where we went to eat. But in Clymer, it wasn't as far. You know, we're not driving out west where 20, 30 miles doesn't mean anything to those people.
Sure.
We'd go to Clymer to the Sugar Bowl, go into Clymer on the main street from Marion Center, Dixonville and Clymer, turn left and just go a little bit and then on the right, about where that bank sits now, that was called Sugar Bowl. That was a restaurant we went to often too.
What do you think is your most satisfaction that you've had in your life, as far as Indiana is concerned? What were you most satisfied about Indiana County?
Well, I never really thought about that. We always came to Indiana, although we went to Punxsutawney sometimes, because it was 16 miles to Indiana and about 12 to Punxsutawney, but Indiana was the main place.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a couple of Pollock relatives that lived in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
One lived Clayton Pollock, and somebody else Pollock lived up in a house. You know where the Salvation Army is now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where you just go up. There's two houses beyond where it is.
Yes.
Well, the farthest house up that used to be. I think it was Clayton Pollock.
Oh, okay.
Visit the relatives there. We're just satisfied with everything. Everything was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, now I know that the Indiana University of Pennsylvania has been here forever, and it wasn't called IUP back then.
Yeah.
What do you remember about those changes that happened? I know they had they had a teaching for nursing. I guess they had that there. What did you remember about the changes that happened in IUP, and what did you guys think about that?
Well, it's just everything else changing, and it was too. My mother she graduated from Indiana Normal School.
Normal school.
She was a teacher for 6 years, 6 or 7 or 8 years before she got married. In Crookside, down the road here where Cunningham's Meat Market, she used to stay with that Cunningham that's running the meat market, his grandparents. That's where she stayed, taught school across the road about where that trailer park is. There was a schoolhouse there. She taught there, and Crookside, and another place or two maybe like that. My father went to academy. This is not answering your question. Back in those days, they had academy. Dayton had an academy,
Okay.
and they had one around Marion Center, I guess. My father went to academy, and he taught school. This is not like you'd like to ask now, questions you can't ask because you never talked about it.
Right.
But he taught school for a couple of years, I guess. Some of his students were older than he was. I remember him saying that, and that's about all I remember about it.
Oh.
But IUP, well, it changed a lot, that's for sure. And
Do you feel that the changes that happened at IUP have changed Indiana, or
oh, I think so,
Yeah.
definitely.
for the better, for the worse, or?
No, well, the drinking is that I'm not a drinker.
Mhm.
I used to drive a truck when I was in Germany.
Mhm.
I was not only a Jeep patrol driver, but I also drove a 6x6 truck. That's a large truck with the dual back wheels and power all wheels. And whenever that needed that truck, you didn't need it very often in our outfit. You'd go to get gasoline or 5-gallon cans.
Right.
That was a lot of work hauling all your gasoline for 34 Jeeps and gasoline in a 5-gallon can. But I'd go and get groceries. I used to haul beer, 30 wooden barrels to the brewery in Germany and roll them off and then load beer barrels. One night at the club, a guy comes up to me and he's got a hamburger with hamburger and onions and tomato in there and got beer, and I had the same with the Coca-Cola. Herb, I see you driving that truck all the time, hauling those beer barrels in, but I never see you drinking it. I said, the smell is enough for me.
Exactly. I could imagine. Yeah.
And so that has changed dramatically, and not for the good.
Right.
Yeah. I know we have friends in Germany that came here. Tom Pauly and his wife came here. He came here in 1970 when he was 17.
Okay.
He's a retired orthopedic surgeon now in Germany.
Oh.
His wife is an eye doctor. But they drink wine. But we were at their wedding in Germany. Bernal and I have been in Germany 5 times. I've been there 7 times, counting when I was in the army.
Right.
And then when I came back from Israel, and then 5 times with my wife. Once in
Later.
the 70s, twice in the 80s, and twice in the 90s. And when 2000 was the last time we went.
Oh wow.
And she was having some Alzheimer's problem then. I noticed that.
Okay.
I had to check at the room when we'd leave a motel or leave somebody's house. If she leave things behind that she belonged to us.
She was already starting
But
to.
but those people, they drink wine and so on. But they at their wedding party, they didn't even have beer. I was amazed at all these young people drinking orange juice.
That's
I couldn't
good.
believe it.
Different. Yeah.
But it was in a castle. We were in a castle with a moat around it.
Oh, nice.
No water in it. But the chapel beside, big enough for 50 people. There was seating for about 40. Then there was people standing around the back. And that's where the wedding was. Then we went into the castle up on the second
that's
floor.
beautiful.
Yeah, I've got pictures of all these things in these albums there.
Okay.
And I talk to them on the phone occasionally. Then we had Sabina. She was a girl that came and lived with us for 3 months. She was studying to be a doctor, and she had to go outside of Germany to some other country to spend 3 months at a hospital. So she came and lived here and went to Indiana Hospital, and they had her going drive Volkswagen to Marion Center and to Homer City to the clinics there.
Oh, that's nice.
And she's a doctor now, married and has children. And I talked to her occasionally, but it's over a year since I called her. Then Richard Coble, the one that he was the one that I knew when I was there. He used to come into our hotel. We lived in Tegernsee in that hotel, which is now gone, and they have it's in a resort area in Tegernsee Lake, south of Munich. And he kind of wait in the waiting lobby. A lot of those kids would come out in the motor pool. We had 34 Jeeps there. They'd want to get in the Jeeps. They want to, what's this? What's this? Well, can I drive the Jeep? No, you can't drive it. But he was waiting there. We lived two in a room in that hotel. The motor sergeant and I were roommates there. And he's the one invited, his mother invited us to go to his place to eat. And he was a gentleman. When I got back from there, we sent him Pollock care packages. He spent some months in the hospital with a cast from his hip through his ankle. Something about the calcium in his diet and something. He had leg problems, but he got over that. And but back to Indiana Normal School. I don't know. Just a lot of changes. I went to some football games, I guess, there.
Did you? Yeah.
But that's I don't. It's a good thing for the town to have the university because it doubles the population now. When I was going to school here, there was like 1,100, 1,200 people here. Penn State was 13,000. Now what's Penn State? 40,000. IUP's 16,000 or something.
Right.
And so it is multiplied more than you can imagine.
Yeah, and then it gets quiet after in the summer because everybody leaves. So you can tell the difference here.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to think about that you want to tell me about Indiana or about your family or about your experiences?
Well, we used to go to Nashville, Tennessee always, once a year at least.
Oh.
And my wife and I took our children and go. Back in the early days, I had 5 years and I delivered a car for Massey Buick in Pittsburgh. Massey Buick provided all of the automobiles for Rockwell manufacturing salesmen in the whole United States. Well, then they divided the country, and the western part of the United States, they got their salesman vehicles from California. But Massey Buick in South Hills in Pittsburgh provided all the cars, rental cars for these salesmen. Well, we'd get a rental call. 4 of those were at Christmas time. And the only thing you had to do was drive the car to the location, take it to car wash, get it washed, and deliver it on the day it's supposed to be delivered. And they used had their credit card to buy gasoline, of course, and you bring the old car back, the used car.
Oh, nice.
And usually they were 1 year old, sometimes 2 years old. And they were all good cars except one that was a Buick Special. It was a small car and had a little trouble with Chevy under the front wheels. And we would take Christmas gifts and go to Nashville, Tennessee to my sisters. She was married, she went to school at Bob Jones University and married a fellow from Indianapolis, and he became a minister. And he was a head for 40 years, or he was a head for almost 40. He worked for 40 years with the Union Rescue Mission in Nashville. It's a big setup. And it grew while he was there. And when they had 2 daughters that we'd go there at Christmas time, take Christmas gifts, and we'd end up with stuff. And I remember we delivered this one car to Huma, New Orleans. That's 50 miles south of New Orleans, and in Louisiana. And I thought, New Orleans is as far south you can go. And I looked at the map. Oh no, you can go down around here, down to Yuma. And we had so much stuff we couldn't put it in a motor. We had to park it outside. But anyhow, that was 4 trips we got for free. One time we went to Florida and we asked the man that we dealt with there, Art Landry, the man we dealt with there,
Mm-hmm.
and we had dealt with them, and we said we'd like to go on from Atlanta on to New Orleans, Florida.
Okay.
And he said, that's all right. You just use your credit card, and you can stay as long as you want to and go wherever you want to. Florida, back. When you get back to Atlanta, I start using a credit card from the company in Pittsburgh. And he said, don't do like some college students did there once. They took a car and they went to Florida or somewhere down there, I forget. Mm-hmm. They went all the way to Texas and up to Colorado and back. He said, those boys are not getting a car again.
That's true. That's messy. They extended their welcome.
Yeah, they were there. It's a good privilege there.
Oh, that's
But there was 5 different years. The last year we went to Tulsa, Oklahoma at Easter time. Our children were growing up. They were gone then. It was just very well.
Okay.
She had an uncle and aunt that lived in Tulsa. We delivered a car to Tulsa, Oklahoma at Easter. So that was nice. But we've gone every year. If we didn't go on those trips, we went other times to my sister's at least once a year. And her husband retired. He passed away a few years ago.
Mm.
He was head of that mission, and when he retired, the national missions gave money. They gave $4,000 to a church in Latvia to put new windows in it. It's a warehouse. In the United States, there's 240 missions
Okay.
of that Union Rescue Mission, and that group gave 4,000. They gave money anyway to this place in Latvia, and a local mission in Nashville gave my sister and her husband tickets to fly over there. They were gone for a couple of weeks over to Latvia. And he made a trip there were 2 other men, I think, in that trip, and there was 1 nurse, because my brother-in-law had some breathing problems. And they went, he and these other men went from Latvia down to, where's the place where Churchill and Stalin and the south of...
Leningrad?
Huh?
Leningrad?
No, that's the north. Anyhow, they went south, and when they got back, they flew back. They went by train, and when they got back, they told my sister, well, you're lucky you didn't go along, because going down on the train, you went to the restroom, you opened the lid, and you looked down, you saw the railroad ties underneath. And it was sort of a shabby ride in the train, and that's why they said, we ought to be able to go back easier than that, so they paid $60 a piece and flew back. Oh.
What an experience. Latvia, that's
part of my history. I'm forgetting about the Yalta. They were together for a big get-together. Stalin and Churchill and Roosevelt. We learned that in history now. Anyhow, that's ancient history.
Good history. It's very good.
I've had a good life. And I've enjoyed being in Indiana. Some people sort of, if I would have followed the path of becoming a store manager, I could have made more money. And because those store managers made more money than I made. But they would have moved around. Some of them are moved all around.
Too much.
Different places. And I chose to stay with the salesman and work with individuals on the farm and that.
More local, yeah.
Yeah, and I liked that.
But you still traveled, which is great too. You've been a lot of places.
Some of those same farms that I went to, the other day, one example was Trax Farm south of Pittsburgh. There's 3, that farm's still Trax Farm. There's 9 family members make a living off that one farm. It's a big farm market south of the library.
Okay.
Over the county line in Washington County of Library, PA. George, Al, and John, 3 brothers. Well, their 3 sons, I dealt with those 3 men, and then they died off. Their 3 sons, Bob and John and Tim. Tim was in the Vietnam War. The other 2 are older. And I dealt with them. And actually, some of their children are running that now.
Your
Bob died a few years ago.
Mhm.
He came all the way from Pittsburgh, he and his wife Dorothy, to my retirement party
Oh, that's nice.
at the Holiday Inn in January 1987. And he was, it was a cold winter night in January. His wife came all the way to that retirement
Oh,
party.
that's very nice.
And Jim McClellan from from the orchard, he had a 100-acre apple orchard, Cannonsburg. He came all that way from the airport, Pittsburgh. Janowski brothers, they're two sons of Francis Janowski and his wife. 10 minutes from the airport, Pittsburgh. They came all the way for that retirement party. And Mary Dale and I went to Germany. We would go to that farm, park a car there, and this Francis Janowski's daughter married the next farm up was a poultry farm. His was the vegetables. He didn't raise any fruit, but he got to raising strawberries.
Okay.
Big farm market there, still going today. And his daughter would come over from this poultry farm, pick us up, leave our car there at their place, and go to Germany and be back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Call her on the phone, and she'd just be over in a few 15 minutes. She'd be over at the airport and pick us up and take us back over to her car.
Nice.
So the Lord has been good to me.
Yes, exactly.
Now the church has been good too.
Really? Yeah.
I was on the elder of the church for I think 4 times, 3 times. Then when the present minister's there, he wanted me on, and I tried to stay off, but they wanted me on the board.
Oh.
So I was on the board for 3 years, just back a few years ago. And then I was on the soil conservation board for 30 years. On that board, and I was president of that, and I was president of the Kiwanis Club. I was a member of the Kiwanis since 1960 something. And I had a man in my church that kept after me, and I said, I'll make you a promise. If I ever join a service club, it'll be Kiwanis. 10 years later, I joined.
Join the Kiwanis.
And I just had too many things going on before. And I was president of that fair board. It was supposed to be 2 years, and then the guy that was my vice president, he didn't want to take it when the time came. All these 14 eyes, they said, Herbert, would you do another year? Yeah, I'll do another year. Well, I got back on again. I was on for 12 years, and I was off 12 years.
Wow.
And then here, a few years ago, Tom Meixel called me, and he said, we need you to fill in 1 year. George Thompson had died. Would you do it? That was after I retired from Agma. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I was on for 1 year. A year later, he called me and he said, we want you to go on permanently for 3 years. Will you do that? And I said, I'm not looking for a new job. And I'll do it if you want me to. If you don't, it's all right. 3 nights later, he called me and he said, Herbert, you're on the board again for 3 more. So I served 12 more years. I served 25 years, 24.1 year on the fair board, in a fair board.
That is amazing. Yeah, they couldn't stay away.
I couldn't stay away. So I've been busy. My wife was at the S&T Bank. She was trust officer for 9 years before I married her.
Okay.
Then she was for 1 year after we married her. Our children were growing up, and they came 3 times to S&T Bank to ask her to go back to her job. She turned them down twice, and on the 3rd year, it was 16 years she'd been away, she said to me, well, maybe I ought to go back, because the children don't need me. So she went back and worked 12 more. So she worked 24 years. And the interesting thing about that the accounting system that she had set up for them when she was there before, they were still using when she went back. But soon after that, they started changing more into computers. So she had to learn that. But she was on there a total of 24 years.
Amazing. That's crazy.
Secretary of the trust office.
Wow, that's crazy.
So she had a good job, but not much money. I wouldn't want to tell you. I wouldn't want that to get out.
Yeah.
So you had to be vice president to make money.
To make money.
In those days to make money. But she had a lot of money. She did the income tax they have all these accounts that
Yeah.
they have set up for retired people or deceased people.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do the income tax on those. You have to pay out checks to younger people who come in to get their check from their account of their parents or their grandparents or whatever. They deal with all that.
It's a lot of responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
When
So-
was her last year at S&T?
Pardon?
When was her last year at S&T?
See what. Let's see. I can't remember.
80s? Maybe 80s or 90s or earlier?
Well, she was on first time to 57. We were married, so 58.
So,
Then she was off for 12. That'd be 68, 60, about 70. And then from about 70 on to 80,
okay.
80 something she was
Okay.
on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So because she's been gone since 2010?
Yes.
Okay.
She went up on that mountain trip when I told you, going up and having a toboggan ride in the snow up there in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, she and I took her up that. We went up that mountain
Oh.
in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go on a toboggan trip, but there was snow all over up there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we just had a wonderful time together.
Oh, that's
She was
good.
a good wife and a good cook. We used to have on this deck and that patio on the other side, yeah, as many as 30 or 40 people here, different groups in the church, couples clubs would go to meet here, and Pollock family would meet here. Her Cribbs family, she had one brother that had a big family, like my brother,
Okay.
and 30 people or more. Get all them together.
Where did she grow up at?
She was born in Clarksburg,
Clarksburg.
but she went to school in Salzburg. The reason being, when her older sister ended up living in Marion Center, married to Harold Beatty,
Mm-hmm.
when she went to school, there were other farm
Mm-hmm.
young people going to high school, and the fathers would take turns taking them into Clarksburg to Salzburg to school. When Mary Nell grew up, there was nobody else to go. So she wasn't sure what she was going to do, and the Lord was with her there because the minister came out from the Presbyterian Church in Salzburg and said to John Cribbs, he said, would you be agreeable to let your sister, your daughter, Mary Nell, go in and live at our place, take care of our son while she's going to high school. So she lived 4 years in Salzburg at the minister. She was a nanny for the children.
Oh.
Well, there was one, and then later there was a second one more. I think that was after she left.
Okay.
But she used to tell about this yellow pages in the paper, and this lady would write down, because in those days the minister's wife
Mm-hmm.
would go with the minister out to make visits on the parishioner, which today that's different.
That doesn't, yeah.
But she would be gone a lot of times, and she'd write these things all down.
Mhm.
Mary knew how to do when she come
Mhm.
home from school. And she said you had to do the laundry in the basement, and you carried that up to the third floor, up to the second floor, third floor, what was it, third floor.
Mm-hmm.
There was straight cords up there to hang the clothes to dry, the diapers and all of it hanging up on the third floor. And the night of the Johnstown flood, 1936, that was the big flood in Johnstown. She went out to the movies with her girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and when they came back, why, the water was up over the bridge. You couldn't cross the river there. And before it was over, it went to the top of the bridge. We were arched up over. And she went, and she knocked on the door. And that was in the morning. No, when she went to bed. It was coming up on the bridge, and she knocked on the door. How was that? And the minister said, she said there's a flood, and it's really flooding. He said, I know, that must have been in the morning. He said, I know, I've been up all night working, trying to get people safe.
Oh, wow. That's an
That
experience.
was 1936. We had the big snow.
Mm.
We had a lot of snow that winter. They opened the road past our farm with a bulldozer. Snow trucks, the trucks couldn't get through. Got too much for them. There were several times, there was a lot of coal stripping going on in the 1940s.
Okay.
And 1936, it was the beginning, and they would come with a bulldozer and they would go crossways till they go down the road like this, like a snowplow,
Right, right.
and pass back and forth. It was sort of hard on the fences along the road they got over. But then all that snow melted, and in the spring we had the flood then in Johnstown. And that wasn't the original flood. It was original some years before that.
The 1800s, I think.
Then there was one since that.
1970s, there was another
Yeah.
flood.
That's the night it rained all night over Johnstown. My friend in Willamore, south of Evansburg, he was a Segway salesman I worked with. He said, you go out in the middle of the night and read the newspaper. The lightning was so much lightning. It just kept raining all night. It would rain and it would sort of pass away, and then it'd come back and stay again, and go away and come back. That time, my nephew from the Pollock farm, he used to haul coal. They had a big tunnel where the water came down from a side creek into the river. And they had that blocked off so he could drive. They drove their trucks out of the highway down into the line by the river. It had equipment to load this debris that washed down in there.
Okay. Did it affect the Pollock farm during those floods?
No, not
That's
at
good.
all.
That's good.
But it affected the road. 119 out beyond Marion Center was underwater to Punxsutawney. That's the 1936 flood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scary times. Yeah.
I remember going to the gas station when that last flood was in. There was an Exxon station down in the downtown in Johnstown, and I stopped there to get gasoline, and I asked the guy, how deep was the water here when it flooded back a month ago? He said, you see that mark? It's up about the top of that picture in the gas station. That's where the water was.
Oh,
There were factories, foundries, and all kinds of businesses in underwater land at that time too.
That's sad. Yeah, it's sad times over there. Well, Mr. Pollock, I think I've taken a lot of your time. Do you have anything that you want to add to our story historically about your family or
I just appreciate my parents and the good training they gave me. They gave me a good faith, Christian faith, and they gave me work ethic that I'm still working. I feel I need to do something as long as I can.
That's right.
Because sitting around not good.
Not good. I could tell you are very. You have some great work ethics. Your family, and
None of us smoked. None of my family smoked. Now in Mary Nell's family, her brother John Cribbs, he smoked. That's the only one I can think of. But we were just taught that wasn't a good thing to do.
Right. That's right.
We listen to our parents.
That's right.
I think there's a lot of young people now that don't listen to their parents.
And have no faith. They don't have any hope for life. Yeah. So it's a different times. That's for sure.
And people not telling the truth, that gets me. I think they can ruin the best things that they have.
Exactly.
They didn't learn that at church, not to tell a lie.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Mr. Pollock, I appreciate you providing this interview for IUP and the Historical Society. And if there's anything else you want to add before we close?
No, I think I ought to be a member I'm not a member of the Historical Society.
You need to be. And since you're so active.
I'm making a pledge to you now. I'm going to send them the money to become a member.
That is awesome. You are, especially you're still active in the community. You have a lot they would definitely love for you to be in that.
I know Bruce Jenkins from Calvary Church. He's a member.
Is he?
Bruce Jenkins.
Okay.
And several other people. And yes, I don't know. My wife was a member of Historical Society in Salzburg.
Oh, okay.
And why I never became a member in Indiana.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
I make your pledge, I'll do that.
Will do. Well, I appreciate Mr. Pollock. I thank you very much.
I thank you for being a good interrogator or whatever your title is. I don't know.
Pretty much intent. Thank you so much, sir.